Hello, hello, and welcome to part 4 of our mini series on how to figure out what you want and how to get it. So let's begin with a recap. In part 1, we laid the foundation. That's always important, and we did a really simple exercise. It's always been so eye-opening for me. It's designed to help us get in touch with our own willingness by asking us why. Uh, I think sometimes I'd make a really good 2-year-old. Why? Anyway, but the willingness, our willingness, that's one of the key ingredients to actually getting what we want. And it's really crucial for 2 reasons. First, it doesn't matter what you want, or unless you're willing to do what it takes to get it. And that especially includes examining your thoughts, your feelings, your beliefs. Those are critical. And then 2, once you know what you are and are not willing to do, you can begin to identify what's been getting in your way and address that. It's no longer a mystery. So then in part two, we talked about 2 things. First, what is wanting? I mean, really, what does wanting even mean? And we throw this word around like confetti, anything from wanting a cup of tea to wanting a new pair of shoes to wanting to totally transform our lives. So we need to understand our wanting better, which goes back to the foundation. Okay. And then we need to understand what this thing we want, this relationship, this goal, this thing, what does it represent to us? I mean, why do you want the things you want? What do they really mean to you? What do they represent? And how many times do we get something or we think we want something and it turns out to not be really what we wanted at all? And then, of course, that just contributes to our frustration and our sense of not getting what we want. It also contributes to blaming other people and circumstances, insisting that they must be responsible or they must change first. Anyway, in part 3, then we talked about the third key ingredient. This one's a biggie. This is a huge, huge, huge turnaround because we turned the tables and then we looked at our desires from the perspective of those desires. What does this goal or relationship or thing want from you for itself? Okay, so today we're going to look at the next key question, and that is, you ready? Is there a match or a mismatch between what you want and what this goal or relationship wants from you? And guess what? Hint, hint. The answer is no, or you wouldn't be here. Okay. That's okay. That's why we're here, right? There's a gap between what you want and what that relationship or goal or thing wants from you. And that is the one and only reason it is not already part of your reality. Because everything you want and don't already have already exists for you. Everything already exists. It's outside your current comfort zone. And there's some mismatch between what you want and what it really represents to you that's blinding you to it. So, time to get clear. Your own thoughts, feelings, beliefs, and actions, they all live inside this gap. And without understanding where the gap is, or gaps, might be more than one, we're doomed to keep doing the same things while expecting different results. We've heard that a million times. Well, let's get into what that means. Chances are you want to argue with that statement, that it already exists for you, and there's just some gap in your own thinking and feeling and beliefs. Well, you know what? The only alternative is to make other people and circumstances change first. And since you have no control, zero control over either of those, you're just setting yourself up for ongoing frustration and failure. And you're going to be angry You're going to be angry because these other people, these other circumstances aren't doing what you think they should do. And you hate to be treated that way. So if you're feeling the urge to push back, and remind me and yourself that changing your own behavior, thoughts, beliefs, and actions will change your perceived circumstances. You're going to love seeing the synthesis that occurs in this lesson. So the magic begins when you identify this gap between what you want instead of looking outside yourself to blame something or someone for not giving you what you want. Okay? So let's start here. I mean, look around you. Look all around you. Are there other people who are getting the kinds of relationships and achieving the kinds of goals or desires or results that you desire? Are there? Because if the answer is yes, and it is, it always is, that tells you that your own heart's desire is within the realm of human experience, your experience. So, and here's another little clue. Once you begin treating everything like a relationship and begin applying the precise principles of giving and receiving that are so key to good relationships, and we went over in part 3, your results will change rapidly and profoundly. In fact, they'll go from I never get what I want to my wish is the universe's command. That's pretty cool, huh? So there is one caveat. This is important. Please listen to me here. There will be times when that person or even goal that you know, what they want from you in return, okay? Listen carefully. There are going to be times when what that person or goal wants from you will kind of cross boundaries, violate them, or at least nudge them, okay, push up against them. And there will be times when what that person or goal wants from you are not in your best interest. Now, keep in mind, this is important, listen here, that being stretched beyond your current zone and having your boundaries breached, that is not the same thing at all. You want to be stretched. You do not want to have your boundaries breached. So this is a good time to check in with your boundaries. You know, are they imprisoning you or protecting you? Okay, good time to check in with your boundaries. But when it really is a boundary violation, you don't want to be a match at all. Instead, that's a really good sign to go back to questions 1 and 2, to re-examine what you want or what you think you want and why you want it. Because there's some disconnect within your own wanting or your own understanding of what this thing represents or means to you that needs to be identified and needs to be addressed. Okay. Is that a deal? Please? All right. Anyway, your gaps are going to be discovered through cross-checking the answers from step 1 and the answers from question 2, or question 1 and question 2. And then courageously, bravely, boldly, clear-eyed, identifying the mismatches. And that's really all you have to do. But remember, your gaps also exist somewhere outside your comfort zone and your ideas, your expectations of how things should work. And how you think they should work is probably part of your comfort zone. How they actually work, that's outside there. That's out there somewhere waiting for you to become found. They're waiting to become found by you. Anyway, do you remember Sharon and Denise from part 3? Now, just to refresh your memory, Sharon wanted a man who was fit and energetic, and she was, in her own words, this is not me, in her own words, she was a couch potato. Okay, and she said more than once, you know, I've told myself I'd become more active and energetic when he came along, that he would be in my incentive, and I just assumed, is that word? I just assumed he would be able to see that and he'd be okay with it. Of course, she also claimed that there were no good men left, and maybe that was blinding her just a little bit. Denise, remember Denise? She wanted a healthier body, and what she discovered was that she had been following trends and just going along with friends instead of really listening to her own body. And even though she was telling herself that she was, well, already giving her body everything it should want. And there's that word again. So, and those were comfort zones. For both these women, they're a buffer that lets you push responsibility away from you and put it elsewhere. And you've heard the saying, that's just giving away your power. Well, it's because it's true. Both these women were creating thoughts that led to feelings, that led to beliefs, that created their gaps. Now, these two examples, Sharon and Denise, they're really just classic examples, maybe even common examples. We hear variations on this all the time, and the thing is, our individual desires and our reasons and our why, they're very, very specific. They are distinct, unique, and individual. However, all human desires fall into three general buckets: relationships, health, wealth. Pretty much everything falls in there somewhere. So Sharon and Denise both realized that in doing this work, all right, you listening? Because this was big for both of them, and it will be big for you too. They identified patterns that had played out throughout their lives. It wasn't just this one thing, like Sharon with having a romantic relationship, Denise with her weight and her body. They realized that these patterns were playing out in many areas, maybe even all areas of their lives. And that was a huge step in clearing their way to becoming found by their truest self. And it was the step that let them begin being less burdened with all of this stuff, this baggage, these beliefs and thoughts and feelings that have been getting in the way. So part 4, what we're looking at today, it is so very simple, but it's one of those simple and profound things, because what it's going to ask you to do is get outside the familiar territory of your own comfort zone. Put your list side by side and compare them. Where are you a match? Where are you a not match? And so literally, side by side, I actually recommend just taking a sheet of paper of some kind and drawing a line down the center, or if you're a little bit more techie, you can create a Word document with 2 columns. But what you want is 2 side-by-side columns. So in the first column, for me, that's the left-hand one, put your list from column 1. What do you really want? Write all of those things, 1, 2, 3, 4, however many there were. Then in the right column, put your list from question 2. What does this goal or relationship want from me? Again, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So, and then I like colorful things. I like to use 2 different colored highlighters. One is going to mark the things that match. They're on both lists. These are where we match already. The other will mark the items that don't match, because in those things that don't match, we're going to find our sort of like personal marching orders. Now, some people aren't into the colorful highlighters. Some people will circle. Some people will create a third list. It doesn't matter. What you want to do is create a visual of your comparison of these two lists, your mix and match, your here's where we match, here's where our gaps are. So whatever works for you best, because what you're wanting to do is distinguish your matches and your mismatches. Now, again, listen up. Your goal is not an exact 100% match. So don't beat yourself up. You're actually hoping that it's not a 100% match, because the mismatches are going to become your roadmap to so many things. The goal, the end goal, the big picture goal is actually harmony in your matches and curiosity about your mismatches. And you want to have room in there to keep growing, to keep evolving, to keep taking the next step, the next baby step, the next eye-opening, awakening epiphany. There has to be room in there for that. And it's in the mismatches that room is created. That space and grace in those mismatches. So where we are right now, this is a beginning, not an ending. And you may have heard me say this. I like to say this. I'm an 80-20 kind of gal, and 80% is fabulous. And that 20% fudge factor, well, that's actually my wiggle room. Okay. It's where I forgive myself, treat myself. It's where I keep growing and evolving. Because personally, I want to keep growing and evolving, becoming more aware, becoming more whole, becoming more fully loving and being loved. I want to keep on as long as I'm alive. So my marching orders to you today are just be courageous, be bold. Because defining your life on your own terms, taking charge of your life story, that's depending on your courage. Self-honesty with a little forgiveness will point out the gaps, and they'll provide the gateway. So to do today's part 4, you will actually need to have completed parts 2 and 3. You need those 2 lists. So I'll drop the links in the comments below just in case you need them, make it easy for you. But remember, I want to repeat this. Everything you want already exists for you. It's just outside your current comfort zone. This is where you begin consciously and purposely deciding. Okay? Grow your comfort zone, grow yourself, grow your comfort zone, or shrink your desires to fit your current comfort zone. There's not a third option. Grow yourself, shrink your desires. And there's another important question that we're not going to get to it today, but I want to leave it with you as food for thought, something to ponder on. You ready? Who are you willing to disappoint in your quest to fulfill your desire and become found by your true self? Somebody's going to be disappointed. Is it going to be you? Hope not. Are you willing to disappoint someone else? Not hurt them, not harm them. Disappoint them so that you can be true for yourself. Because in a very real sense, becoming your true self, even if it disappoints them, is setting them free to go do the same thing if they so choose. They may not. None of your business. But for you, this is a decision, a choice. Who are you willing to disappoint so that you can become found by your true self? You're standing at a threshold right now for one of the biggest choices you will ever make, maybe the biggest choice you will ever make. Your entire future, your life story depends on what you decide. And this gap is a chasm you must cross. It reminds me of a story from one of the Indiana Jones movies, and I don't recall which one, the name of it right offhand. But Indy is in this cave, and he's running, and he's got to run, and I forget what it is. I'll have to look this up. Maybe I'll drop this in the comments too. But he is running through the cave to get something and basically save his friends and save the world. And all of a sudden, he burst out, and there's this humongous chasm in front of him, and I can't even see the bottom of it. It's just a bottomless pit. But whatever it is he needs to do or be or get, have, whatever it is he needs to fulfill this is on the other side of that chasm. And I mean, he's terrified. He's terrified. But finally, he knows he has no choice. He can step out in faith and hopefully succeed, or he can turn around and go back and definitely fail. So, Indy, he stepped out. And as soon as he did, he could see the bridge beneath his feet. And he walked across it. And then what he did next, I thought this was so fabulous. He leaned down and he scooped up some dirt from beneath his feet, and he turned around and he tossed it back across this bridge so that he could see where he could come from. See where he had come from, and not forget the wisdom, the lessons, not forget what he had learned. So today is your turn to cross your own chasm by finding your own gaps. And then next time we're going to talk about stepping out in faith. So bye for now.